The way a sonata movement works. First of all, sonata can mean a few different things. Sonata can mean this piece is a piano sonata. That means it's a solo piece. In the case, if it's a piano sonata, it's unaccompanied, meaning it's just piano. If it were a viola sonata, for instance, it would be a viola solo with a piano accompaniment, almost certainly. Viola could play unaccompanied sonatas, but they're rare. If it's a melodic instrument, a single line instrument, it usually comes with a piano accompaniment, so you can have bass and chords and melody. However, piano can play all three of those together pretty easily. So usually piano sonatas are not accompanied, or maybe never. I can't remember any that were accompanied. It would be weird.
Funky.
Yeah. There are certainly sonatas, like if I were to write a marimba sonata, I probably wouldn't have piano accompaniment because I have the full range, bass, chord, and melody, and I can play all the parts on a marimba.
But you might want a drum though, right? Possibly.
Not in a sonata. I mean, I could do it as a modern composer,
Yeah.
but if I were writing a piece in the style of Mozart, I probably wouldn't use a drum because it would be weird. Or if I did, it would be a 20th century element in a classical period
You could use
construction.
a drone. You could use a drone.
You could do all kinds of things as a modern composer. But if you're trying to copy Mozart's style, you wouldn't do any of those things. I would not copy Mozart's style exactly unless it was like an exercise for a composition lesson or something. Okay, so sonata form is in three parts. Sonata piece is a solo piece, chamber piece, solo for an instrument as the soloist, maybe with an accompaniment piano. Sonata form is a structure that is used for a piece, like often the first movement of a sonata. Sonata is usually a multi-movement work, 3 or 4 movements. The first movement is almost always a sonata form, which is where the term comes from for the full piece. The sonata form is in 3 parts. You have the first part, exposition, second part, development, third part, recapitulation. Exposition is what we are doing here. We just did page 1. Page 2 is the end of the exposition. It almost always goes to a repeat sign, which you'll see at the bottom of page 2. The repeat sign means you repeat and you do the exposition 2 times. So you really hear those themes. You hear that movement from tonic to dominant, from C to G keys. And at the end of it, you are in that G key. The first time you get to the end, you get a G chord at the end. And then you go back to the 1 chord, and it sounds like you go 5-1, and then you're back in the key of C. And it sounded like a big dominant to tonic on the repeat. But the second time you get to the end, and now you sound like you're in the key of G, and you go into the development section. What the development section is the composer just monkeying with your ear. It is a playground where a composer can show off and try different things and make your ear move to a whole bunch of different keys if he wants to. By the end of the development section, everybody who knows about sonata form is listening for the beginning of the recapitulation. The beginning of the recapitulation is exactly like the beginning of the full movement. So when we get there, we will see this music from bar 1. You will see it exactly copied after the development section, and that's what tells you you are out of the development section. It's over, and now you're in the recapitulation. The recapitulation usually is exactly the same as the exposition. It starts exactly the same always. And then in the exposition, you have tonic going to dominant, right? In the recapitulation, it starts tonic, played pretty much the whole first tonic section. But where you went tonic to dominant, in the recapitulation, you go tonic to tonic. You play all that dominant music that you're going to identify on page 2. You play all that music, but you play it transposed to the tonic key. So that if you're listening, you hear, I've got my tonic center, I go to the dominant center. I go in, I repeat that, tonic to dominant. I go to the development section and all bets are off. It could go anywhere, who knows? Then I hear that original music that I've already heard twice. I really know it. I hear it and I know I'm in the recapitulation. I hear all that tonic music, and then when it went to dominant before, I heard these unique new themes that were in a different key. I hear those same themes at the end of the recapitulation, except I don't hear them in the new key. I hear them in the actual C major key, the original key of the whole piece. So you go tonic, dominant, who knows, tonic, tonic. And that gives you the strong sense of ending, like you feel like you're at home, because you have your home key, you went to your vacation key, home key, vacation key, craziness on your vacation, back to the home key, and then now you get your home key, but you've learned all that new stuff from your travels, and you've incorporated it into the home key, which gives you this sense of completion and finality. This is the psychology of the sonata form, and this is why it's like composers still love it today.
And maybe on your vacation key, you went to the Florida Keys.
It's possible. In a minor key, it's almost exactly the same. We're talking about major key sonatas here. In a minor key, it's the same, except going tonic to dominant. In a minor key, your tonic key is minor, C minor, for instance. When you go to that other key, it's not going to be the dominant, it's going to be the relative major. So if you're in C minor, the second key is going to be E flat major. Does that make sense? And then in the recapitulation, it would be C minor, and then that E flat major material from the exposition is now going to be translated into C minor. That's really interesting, because major themes, now you're hearing them in minor melodies. It's those are my favorite ones. Everybody have a good sense of all this?
Yep.
I restarted this video for this conversation, so you'll have that. You can watch it again if you want to. I'll get all these posted tonight, I think.